All right, guys, this is going to be fun. Today, we're talking with Stu Massengill. Stu's a speaker and a podcaster who's helping the millennials and Gen Z, the high achievers in this group, to communicate and connect at new levels. Now, surprisingly, he started out his career as a shy kid whose biggest fear, get this, was public speaking, right? I certainly understand that. But after pushing himself to speak more, he slowly fell in love with it. And he also started to build powerful networks and connections and relationships, and that changed everything. Since then, Stu has been on stages around the country speaking to anywhere from 10 to 10,000, where he talks about the importance of improved communication and exceptional networking skills. That work has really allowed him to do some amazing things, one of which is to connect with Tony Robbins. Yes, that Tony Robbins. And now he's a national trainer with Tony, doing projects with him all the time. Plus, all this inspired him to launch his own podcast called Finding Direction, which helps millennials and Gen Zers to find direction. And that's how we connected. In fact, Stu invited me on his show and we had so much fun. I said, I want to turn the mics around and get your story. So I love this. So let's get to this. Stu, welcome to Dream, Think, Do, brother.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Mitch. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Well, it's true. Like, we had so much fun and you're interviewing me. I'm like, we don't have enough time this time. I'll use the excuse in having you on my podcast to get into your story. So I love it. Now, I mentioned in the intro that, you and I are kind of cut from the same cloth. We both kind of started out as shy kids who had to kind of push ourselves to do the things that we do right now. So tell me a little bit about that for you. I know, you were shy. So the thought of speaking or growing this network that you've got now, probably you would have never believed if I was telling a younger Stu.
Never. Yeah. So my story, I would say, starts, obviously I was a little kid. I grew up. I have a lovely family dynamic. I got two great parents, an older brother. But the way that I grew up was sort of, my older brother was always the person that was like the social one, the stud. He was outgoing.
Yeah.
And I sort of began to form this identity of, all right, well, I'm more of the shy, quiet, hesitant, a little bit more reserved. Felt like I was in a shell. And that I kind of just carried with me throughout until I got to college.
Interesting.
And if I was around my friends, I would talk to them. But if I was around a stranger or something like that, I was like, absolutely, there's no way.
No way. Yeah. Not me. Not going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, no way. And so when I went to college, my mom actually asked me one question. She said, if there's one thing you want to get out of college, what is it? And I said, I want to come out of my shell. Because the reality was, and I think this happens for a lot of us that feel like we're in the shells, like we don't want to be in this shell. Right. It's not like it's this place that's amazing and comfortable and you feel so good in there. It's like, you're like, this sucks. Like, I don't know how to have a conversation with the person next to me.
Yep.
I truly did not understand humans. Like, I didn't get what they even spoke about. Like, it fascinated me. And so I got to college with this idea of, how do I come out of this shell? And then that kind of led me to getting into a business. And that's where I really started to come out of that shell. But that was, I would say, a little bit how I was quiet and shy growing up.
Yeah, sure. I love that. And I, as an older brother who was a stud and is a stud still to this day, I totally get it, man. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I love it. So when I love your story, because I think what I hear, and when I've done with my research too, it started with a choice. Like saying, I got to figure out a way to do this. You used college kind of as that, hey, this is a new season, new day, I'm going to try it. But what I'm also hearing is that you kind of had to look for the excuse beyond that. You had to look for places to experiment. And so let's talk about that. And let's talk about, kind of how you now teach, especially when it comes to not only speaking, but really building a network, building relationships. And to your point, just having a conversation with a stranger, because that can be deathly, terrifying to a lot of, people that are high achievers, but the thing that's holding them back is being able to build a network. And heck, let's go all the way and let's just throw COVID on top of that. Because I think if somebody was already nervous about talking to a stranger, we're right now in a season where it could be death to great networking and relationship building, because if somebody was already nervous about it, they might be horrified of it now.
Right.
So let's talk about kind of how did you learn it? But more importantly, like, what are some of the specific strategies that you started to employ that you use now all the time?
Yeah, love it. So for me, as I mentioned, when I was a freshman in college, I was introduced to a business. It was a network marketing company. And basically, the lesson I learned there was I either get good with humans and I can be successful here, or if I don't, one, I'm not going to be successful in the business. And two, more importantly, that I'm not going to enjoy my life as much because you will never get away from people.
Right.
They're
Right.
everywhere, right? Whether it's COVID,
They
whether it's
are
not COVID,
everywhere.
they're coming for you. And and so for me, I guess when it comes to the strategies, honestly, and this is a simple strategy that people can apply, but this was probably the most profound uncovering for me was
Yeah.
this acronym called FORM.
Hmm.
And it stands for family slash from, occupation, recreation, and motivation. And what it is it's literally just a foundational building block for communication. So when I used to look at having a conversation with people, half of what made me scared to have a conversation with someone
Yep.
was I had no idea what we would talk about. I was like,
Right.
what do
Where do
people
you even
talk about?
start?
Yeah,
Right.
where do you even start? What do you talk about? How do people have conversations for like an hour? Like I just didn't get it. And so when I learned this form, it taught me this building block for communication, right? You talk to someone, oh, where are you from? You dig
Yep.
into that a little bit. Oh, what's your family like? You dig into that. Oh, what do you do for work? What do you do for fun? What are your dreams, goals, aspirations? And that was, I believe, for me, the key to communicating and becoming a good communicator. But then I think it goes a level deeper when it goes to actually creating a connection, because you can communicate with someone, you can have a conversation with them, but the true secret is creating such a strong connection with them that you leave the conversation that go, oh my God, that guy Mitch, like I love that dude. I would love to talk to him more. I'd love to be
Yep.
around him more, his energy. And what I found that really creates that connection piece is something called finding a common ground of interest.
Yeah.
Because if we kind of go down this rabbit hole, it's like people's favorite subject in the world, it's themselves. Their favorite word in the world, it's their name.
Yep.
So what has happened as humans is we go out throughout our life, we have different experiences, and throughout these experiences, we ultimately build up these walls. They're invisible walls, but they're walls so that when we walk around and we have other interactions with humans, unconsciously, we are asking ourselves, do I feel safe around this person? Do I want to bring these walls down? Do I feel comfortable here? Or do I not? And the
Yep.
way that we determine if we feel comfortable or not is we go into this question asking of ourselves of, well, is this person like me? Because
Yeah.
again, our favorite person in the world is ourselves. So if we have a conversation with someone and we go, oh my God, they're like me, then all of a sudden now we like them, right? We like people like ourselves. And so a simple example I would give is, let's say, for example, you're in Egypt, right? You're traveling, you're in
Why
Egypt.
not? Yes.
Why not? Right.
Egypt. Yes.
And you're in Egypt, you're exploring, and all of a sudden you have this random conversation with this random stranger, and you're talking, and they're like, oh my God, I'm from, I don't know, say Danville, California, this
Sure.
small little town in San Francisco Bay Area. And you're like, oh my God, I'm from Danville, California. And all of a sudden you're in the middle of nowhere, but you feel
Yes.
like best friends. You feel like you've known them forever. Your walls come down. You feel like you could tell them your deepest, darkest secrets. And the reason you've created that strong connection is because you found that common ground of interest. And so
Yep.
basically, as you're going through conversations with people and connecting and networking with people, the most absolute important part, I would say, is finding a common ground of interest with that person, because then they know you're like them, and then they want to be around you. And then if you just want to put like a cherry on top, just say their name a couple times throughout that conversation and they'll love you even more.
That's like pouring nitro in the engine, right? That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Well, and I think that is so, so powerful, especially in a time where it almost feels like the world is so divided, you know, the polarization, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I couldn't agree more that being able to find that common ground is such a great place. You know, that common interest is, once you find that,
Yeah.
then you can explore the differences and say, oh, you know, let's and be curious about those differences, because you at least know you've got that root of common ground. So, my gosh, man, you've hit us with two pieces of gold immediately. I love it. I want to go back, because I think what you talked about with form is such a great way to get to and bridge to finding that common ground. But I knew we went through the acronym really fast. So F was from and family.
Yes.
O was what?
Occupation.
Occupation.
So
All
what are you doing
right.
for work, your job?
Awesome. And then R.
Recreation.
Nice.
So what are you doing for fun?
Yep. And
And
then
then
M.
M will be motivation.
Nice.
That's getting into what are your dreams, what are your goals, what are your aspirations, and just sort of seeing, what are people's visions.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so that's great. So now,
Yeah.
now we're going to fast forward because we're going to use form to then
Yeah.
find that common ground.
Yeah.
I love that, and I'm also hearing you say that part of it is getting someone talking and getting them talking about themselves because, like you said, that's their favorite subject and their favorite word is their name, and this is not manipulation. This is just connecting, right? This is actually getting to know people, which is beautiful. Now, I'm curious on your thought here because I know, I get to speak on college campuses quite a bit. I've got two sons that are, 20, 21. We talk about these kinds of things a lot that I think form is so powerful. Common ground, huge.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest barriers is that what do you say to start a conversation, whether you're sitting next to someone, whether you find yourself in a room, and let's just be honest, right now, especially out in public when you're wearing masks, some of those social cues of, is this person smiling or scowling at me right now? All that stuff. But what would you say, what are a couple of the strategies that you teach on just instigating a conversation, especially with a stranger or someone you're kind of thrust into common space with?
Yeah. So I'll give a couple quick ways on how you can do it. And then I want to dive a little bit into getting out of our own way.
Yeah.
Because part of starting a conversation with someone, some of the biggest struggles for us sometimes is getting into our head and going, oh, am I going to say the right thing? What if I don't say the right thing? What if I mess it up? All those things. So I would say two very simple things that you can do to start a conversation. Number one is complimenting someone. So everybody, and genuinely complimenting them. Everybody loves getting a compliment, right? So if you're wherever you are and you see someone, you go, oh my God, I love that jacket that you have or whatever. Right now they're going to be like, oh my God, thank you. You can ask them, oh, where'd you get it? And then boom, that's when you slip in form, right? You go, oh, well, where are you from? Are you from here? Right? Boom. And then you start to go into form. So that's one way. Another way, and this one, again, is very simple, but it's just literally asking someone, how was your day?
Yeah.
Right? Like wherever you are, how's your day? And then you want to understand the importance of language.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, right, we ask, how's your day? You get the general response. Oh, it's good. I'm doing okay. Or my day's all right.
Fine.
Fine. Yeah, I'm doing fine. What you want to understand is that language is power. What I use is I'll ask people, how's your day? They're like, it's good. How's yours? I just say, I'm blessed. Like, I'm blessed. I'm doing outstanding. I'm doing amazing. I'm breathing. I'm alive. I'm awake today. And instantly, when you use powerful language in your response, now the people you're talking to, they kind of like twist their head. They're like, your day's outstanding. Like, nobody says that. You're blessed. What do you mean you're blessed? Like, how are you? And you sort of bring them in. And then that's, again, when you go into form. So those, I would say, are two super, super simple ways on starting a conversation. And I would say a way to get out of your own way is, I'll share this study they did at Michigan State University.
Okay.
And basically what they did is they taped a heart monitor to this gentleman's chest. They sent him up in an airplane to skydive. And when he was going up in the airplane, his heartbeat was beating like out of his body, like crazy intense. He gets to the jump spot. His heart's beating out of his chest. And as soon as he jumps out, his heart rate goes back to normal.
Interesting.
And what they discovered from this study is that we don't fear the act itself, but we fear the anticipation of the act.
That's
and so
fascinating.
So the tangible they took away from it is something called turn your brain off for 10 seconds. And I love this, and I use it all the time in my life. And it's what it means is, like, let's say you're in that plane, your heartbeat's going crazy. It's beating out of your chest. You are about to jump out. Everything from your instinctual brain is going, don't jump. That's stupid. You might die. This is not a good idea.
Right.
Nothing in your brain says jump. But what you have to do to jump out of the airplane is you literally have to turn your brain off for 10 seconds, go 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of a sudden you're out of the plane, your heart goes back to normal. So in some of these situations where, let's say, you're approaching a stranger, rather than getting in your head so much of what am I going to say? How am I going to do it? No. All right. I'm either going to compliment them or I'm going to ask them how their day is. approach them and then just turn your brain off for 10 seconds. Count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now all of a sudden you're up to them. You say, how's your day? Boom, they respond. Now you're in the conversation. Your heart rate goes back to normal. So scientifically, it's shown that if you can just turn your brain off for a little bit and start that conversation, that once you're actually in the conversation, your heart rate will go back to normal.
I love that. That's fantastic. And that is gold too, right? And it's one of those things that we can do in the moment, which I love. And I actually think that's wildly complementary with the strategy of looking to give a genuine compliment, because it's one of those that part of what your brain is processing is, am I in danger, right? It's the anticipation of the act. It's trying to assess, am I in physical danger? And I'm guessing that one of the ways we could actually turn off that fear and kind of turn the brain off is to say, what can I compliment this person about? Because if I'm asking my brain that, then my amygdala knows we're not talking about lions, tigers, and bears here, right? Like if I'm looking at the guy's shoes going, those are cool shoes, right? Then it's one of those things that helps your brain to do the very thing you were just talking about, to shut off and say, listen, I'm not in danger. It's, the anticipation of the act is not something I actually have to feel fear about. So I think that's wildly powerful. And I do agree with you, a genuine compliment, right? It's kind of and that, to use those power words, but to be able to say these things, sadly, should not be revolutionary, but they are. They really are, especially in our day and age. And so whether you're a Gen Z or a millennial or a boomer or whatever, to give someone, to be fully present and engaged, to give someone a compliment, like a genuine compliment, to actually choose your words and not just, I'm fine, you, another day, another dollar, to be able to say, no, I'm blessed, I'm alive, I'm feeling good, suck it, COVID, whatever. It really does make it a revolutionary opportunity, and it makes you stand out. So I love it, man. Oh my gosh. Like we've already got so much gold, but let's go one last area. What, as far as I know with relationships, like you really have built an incredible network of people. And so, we've talked about, how do you push through the fear? How do you engage someone? How do you get a conversation going? How do you make that person feel that connection, or help that person to feel that connection?
Yeah.
Let's wrap this thing out though and say, all right, we've just had a great conversation. A stranger's become a friend. What's one thing that you do to help then not just walk away and never connect with that person again? What's something that you recommend people do to really help to pull through that, that one-time meeting into an actual relationship that might be for a lifetime?
Yeah. So a couple things I would say is, number one, if you're looking at it in the professional sense, like in building your career, for example, figuring out what you want to do with your life, one of the lessons that I've learned from this woman, Meg J, that I've studied, she has this concept called loose ties versus strong ties. And basically what it means is that strong ties, there are best friends, they're people, your family, your close friends, like someone you could go into your friend's house, open the fridge, drink out of the milk carton, they catch you, they're like, oh, hey, what's up, Stu? Right? Those are your strong ties. Now, your loose ties are someone that you are an acquaintance with, you've maybe met once or twice, you're not super good friends with, but you're an acquaintance with. And she went into this deep study of figuring out what you want to do with your life. And what she found is that oftentimes the people that open doors for us in our life, open doors of opportunity, are these loose ties, right? They're not the people that we're super, super close with. They're the person that we've maybe met once or twice. And now when we're looking to take our career in a certain direction, we maybe reach out to that person. Those are the people that oftentimes are the actual ones that change your life in that instance.
That's fascinating.
And so, that's one thing I would just understand is for some of these relationships you have, they don't need to be the deepest, craziest relationships. And that oftentimes it's even just having those little ties, those loose ties, that actually does open that opportunity. And so that's one thing I would just say to be aware of when building relationships. And another thing is adding value. Like in whatever you're doing, you want to come to the relationship in a sense of, how can I add value to this person? Now, if it's professionally, you could talk to the person and say, hey, can I volunteer? Can I work for free? Can I do anything to help you out? Now, if it's just like a friendship or a relationship, maybe you know that that person loves public speaking. And so you go on Google and there's something called Google Alerts. You type in public speaking. Now you're going to get emails, and you can do this for any topic. You're going to get emails from Google every time something new on public speaking comes out on the internet.
Sure.
Right? So you're staying informed in that space. Then you could be like, oh my God, I read this super interesting article on public speaking. I know Mitch is a public speaker. Let me send him an article just because, maybe it'll be beneficial for him.
Yep.
So it could be something as simple as that. Or just check it in, shooting, over a quarterly email just to say, hey, how's life? How are you doing? I think it's sometimes realizing that the relationships don't need to be so deep, but also that having just these loose tie relationships really can create an impact in your life.
I love it. And I think that's so important to remember, because I think it's easy to think, well, I need to maintain these deep relationships, which is important. Like, we all need great, go to the fridge, not have to ask permission kind of relationships. That's great. But it's also really important to remember the importance of those loose relationships, just because we want to think, well, how do I want to leave somebody? It's that whole thing of, you never know where that relationship might come back up, to either bite you in the butt or be a blessing, right? So why not love on people well, deliver value, offer value, add value where you can. And those are the kinds that I think they help to set you apart and help you build a better network of people. But it's also a better way to live life, right? Like, it's just a better way to live. And I think it's also great to remember it, especially for us introverts who've learned to do extroverted things, that also means there's not all that pressure of, I have to have deep relationships with everybody I have a relationship with. It's like, no, that's reserved for a few, but to be able to still stay connected in some way, still deliver some value once in a while, and in some ways can help to kind of almost lift some of the perceived burden that can come with that. So 100%. That's awesome. My goodness. All right, Stu. So what's the best way? This is so much good stuff. I know people are going to want to follow up with you. What's the best way to find out more about you and find you on the World Wide Webs?
I would say the best way to connect with me, we have a free ebook that we give away to people. So if they want to check that out, it's called 5 Steps to Meeting Anyone You Desire for Introverts. So definitely super relevant. And you just go to findingdirectionuniversity.com/giveaway. And so if people want to go there, they can get the ebook. And other than that, I would just say, social media, Instagram, I'm Stu Massengill there. So happy to help, happy to support in any way that I can.
That's awesome. All right. We'll do that. We'll put all that in the show notes too. So that's fantastic.
Awesome.
Last question for you. What's one thing on this front you wish you would have known earlier?
One thing on
on connecting, building relationships, pushing through the fear.
Yeah, I would say one thing that I wish I knew earlier is that you don't need to be the best talker to be the best communicator, networker, and connector. A belief that I had as I grew up is, you see some of these people, they say they have the gift of gab is what they call it, where they could just talk forever and the other person wouldn't say anything. They could just say, like, I don't even know where they come up with, they could just talk forever. And so when I first looked at how do I get out of this shell, how to become a communicator, connector, networker, my belief was that, well, I have to be really, really good at talking.
Right.
And the reality, and we touched on this earlier, is that like people's favorite thing to talk about is themselves. So if you can just sort of ask questions and get people to talk about themselves, you're going to find out that you're building these super deep relationships and the other person doesn't even know anything about you. In fact, we'll wrap it up with this. They did a study on this where they had a gentleman get on an airplane and he was like the test person. And he sat next to this random stranger, and the entire flight, all this test person did was talk to the person next to them, ask them about their life, ask them about every single thing about them. Then they landed, they got off the plane, and they took this stranger, they came up to the stranger, surveyed him, and they went, hey, can we just give you a 5-minute survey? We just want to see, what did you think of the person that sat next to you? And they were like, oh my God, that person was amazing. They're incredible. They're the nicest human I've ever met. And then they asked him, oh, what was their name? And the stranger was like, oh, I actually don't know their name. And they were like, well, where are they from? And they're like, well, they actually don't know where they're from.
Yeah.
And they realized that the stranger didn't know anything about this test person because the whole time that person just asked this random person to talk about themselves, and that person fell in love with the other person because all
Right.
they did was talk about themselves. So I would say the one thing that I wish I knew back then is that you don't need to be the best talker to be the best communicator.
Brilliant, man. It's so, so true. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
beauty. It's the gift of asking a good question and then listening. I couldn't agree more. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Stu, thanks for bringing the gold. Thanks for being so generous, my man.
My honor, man. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.